Let me first ask you guys, who has ever had a burnout or who was worked over or did too many hours? Thank you. And who knows someone who had that or experienced that? So that's everyone almost in the room. In Holland, at least, it's one of the key diseases, if you may call it, these days, especially on the young people, which is quite staggering. Some people experience anxiety already around their age of 18 or 19 and are already burned out. And that's actually why we built this game, Survival Island, but I'm going to show you that you can also use it for various other reasons, if you like. So the quick who, why, what, the hell, which elements and how to start. Maybe quickly about me. I didn't study game design or any affiliated studies in the past. I did my MBA and MBM, so Industrial Communication and Information Management and Brand Management. And I worked around at Atari in the past as a product manager, for Diesel as a channel marketing manager, 2 years in the advertising industry, and then I got fired. Thank you, and I founded my own company. That was 10 years ago, and I would never have dared to start my own company if I didn't get fired. So I'm still grateful, and the guy that fired me is still a good friend of mine. So, in the past 10 years, I worked a lot for corporates, mostly big companies, because of the budgets they have, because of the things we want to build, and the ambitions we have. But today, I would like to share one key project, actually, that we developed in the last 2 years. And the original question from the guys that approached me was, Bart, currently we have a list of questions, about 100 questions that people need to fill out to determine whether they risk to become burned out. So let me repeat that. It's a questionnaire of 100 questions to determine whether you will be burned out soon. I think if I would have to start that questionnaire, I would already get burned out. So they asked us, could we also make a serious game, maybe, that could build up a profile of people based on the disc. The disc is a monitor that's basically based on the psychological insights on Quinn, where people come into 4 quadrants. I don't know if you know the management insights, the thing with the 4 colors. With blue, you're either blue, red, yellow, or green, I think. And if you're yellow, it means you're quite creative. So I see a lot of yellow clouds here. So basically, it's a tool that builds up and gives people an estimate on what type of preference they have if they would do something about themselves. But you can also use it for an escape room or onboarding game or whatever. Yes, I said escape room, and I saw your head coming up. So that was cool, Michiel. That's how things work. So what did we develop? Well, we took inspiration from the hit series Lost. Did anybody see it? And if you really understood it at the end, please keep your hand above. So this guy from Greece understood it in the end. So let's talk later. So I got lost in that series in the end. And the technical advancement in our game is based on Mist, because it's not that technically advanced. We built it in HTML, and it's a web-based application so far. But we took also inspiration from Expedition Robinson. I wanted to show you the concept where we started with, also to give you an idea how ideas can go in certain directions. And maybe you think first of a mobile application and then later you conclude, no, it shouldn't be mobile, or it should at least be on a bigger screen or a different device. But first we thought if you want to do something with Vitality or with your profile, then it needs to be in your pocket so you can always reach it and use it and whatever. So we thought maybe about something that could also track you wherever you were. But the basic idea was eventually that we wanted people to experience something totally out of their working zone, because most people get bored out or burned out because of their work, because it's either too high pressure or too low pressure, and that's exactly the flow theory, of course. So we thought let's put people on an island, and a desolate island, and maybe it's an island with some possibilities to go to other islands as well. Then we go to Greece again, but maybe you can walk actually from one island to another island. That's all still out in the open. And these are just some conceptual shots to explain to the customer what our idea was. And so we said, as soon as you wash up at the beach, maybe it would be interesting for people to pick certain items. Similar to what Betty told us this morning, it may be more interesting to just provide 9 or 12 items and to say, okay, here's a knife, when there's no thread on the island, but you could bring a knife, you could bring the Bible or the Holy Book, whatever book you read, maybe a bottle of ketchup, a bottle of chips, a bottle of wine, a bottle of beer, energy drinks, water, whatever. And people, that will maybe tell a story already about what type of choices people make if there's only room for 5 items. Next step could be where to go. You could remain on the island. That could say something about you, about your entrepreneurial spirit, for instance. Maybe you could just run up and down the beach. Maybe you write down help in the sand. Maybe you will climb the mountain, make a fire, etc. So these are all choices that will reveal something about your personality. At least that's the idea we had with it. And in the end, if you could start all over again, so you get lost on an island like Tom Hanks did when he was working for DHL or the other company, FedEx, what choices would you make, and would you find Mr. Wilson, and how would you treat him or her? So we wanted to create at least an environment where players are tempted to make choices and make their own decisions. And for instance, that could look like this. The first question could be, what would you do? What would your first steps be if you were a shipwreck survivor? And click and drag the answers in the way you would undertake them. So obviously we couldn't invent all those questions ourselves, so we asked a behavioral scientist to help us with all the questions, and also to create the profile eventually. And we thought maybe there should also be questions more visual, like this: where are your roots? In the Netherlands, Europe, or wherever, or who inspires you most? You could think about that, or maybe what did you want to become as a kid? Think back. If you think back now, what did you want to become as a kid, and are you doing that right now? I always wanted to be an inventor when I was 12, when I was playing with my Legos, and finally, after 30 years, I'm now an inventor, I can say. So I invent games and gamification systems. Well, that's good enough. So the game loop that we developed was basically, you have to determine your direction every time, every step you take. Seek and gather stuff, I'll show you later. You can combine things, so we actually created a crafting function, so you could craft a bow to catch fish, or you can create a hut and a bed and stuff like that. And basically, the further you get throughout the game, the more the story unveils itself to you. In the end, to help you get insights in what type of person you are, whether you're a realist, a social person, mere entrepreneurial, or whatever. Does it make sense? Any questions so far? So this is the first tile where you wash up. I think this is another video that will not work in that case, but here you see, luggage comes out of the ship. So luggage will wash up. So if you would do nothing in the game, just hang out at the beach and walk up and down the beach, you would be able to gather the luggage, open it, take the stuff out that's in there, and sometimes you will get a question because there's a day and night routine. So after 18 steps, you're exhausted and you will have to return to your to the place where you start the game. Also, for us being able to create wake-up questions. So every morning when you wake up, we have a question. Oh, you dreamt about your colleagues. Which colleague do you like most? The chattery one, the one that's very smart, the one that is your manager, or whatever. So we create a lot of contextual moments where we are able to create questions that make sense in that place. So also we create environments like a cave or a plane that crashed where you're standing before a door that you need to open up, but if you want to open up, you need to have something and get that, and then you can open up the door. So that's basically how it works. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of the back end because I'm quite proud of the CMS we built actually, because it turns out that it's a game engine in itself. So the Excel, well, basically how we started developing this game was we started physically with just a flip over piece of paper and started marking like how big should this island be? How many steps would you be able to take? How would you navigate through the island? Would it be like a maze or should it just be a path that you follow, but we give the player the idea or the illusion that there's a freedom of choice? And when we did that, we saw that we had about 80 different tiles, and 80 tiles seems like not a lot, but if you have to design 80 tiles by hand, because there's a designer that created all the beautiful atmospherical designs, it takes him 1 day per tile, so it's 80 days of work, which is, well, you can do the math how much money, depending on the hourly wage. Then I started writing the storyline myself. Obviously, a copywriter did it in the end. But I also wanted to have a feeling like how many choices are there in the game. So if I ask someone something and the answers are different, like 4 different answers, what is the impact of that? And what happens if I enter the same tile 5 times? Because maybe I walk forward, I walk back, and I come back. You can actually also wait in the game, so you can wait, and if you wait longer, you get some tips. But it also, you become more thirsty and hungry if you keep waiting, because you stand around all day. Obviously, you will get hungry. So eventually, we have about 200 records of text in the game. And that was all put in the CMS eventually. And also we have a lot of items in the game. So we have bananas and water and chips and, well, everything you saw. And that's just the survival items that are in there. But we also have story items that you need to have to progress throughout the game and to solve mysteries. So when I was almost finished with the Excel, Tim build a CMS because he said it's easy if we build a CMS, we can just upload pictures of locations and we can start testing immediately and see if it works and how it works. So for instance, you could imagine that if you start here, that you want to go to the right, to the right, to the right, etc. But then we were thinking, maybe, but there's a bridge you need to cross, but there's no bridge. And then we could test if people would gather wood and put it together with strings, and then build a bridge themselves to overcome these gaps in the field. But this is just a beta version, or version 1, you could say, from this game. It hasn't been sold yet; it's not out there yet. But we are looking for people in different countries to maybe have an interest in this project. So, but the nice thing with the CMS, you can just upload artwork, so it could also be a picture of your office, of the front door, and then the reception area, and to the left are the elevators, and to the right are the meeting rooms, etc. So we build it now like a horizontal island, but it could also be a building, which is vertically oriented. And then obviously you have to enter a text like the title, intro text, a question that you might think is relevant at this certain point in stage. You can create missions, so you could say, okay, to progress into the elevator, you need an access pass, and the access pass you can only get from the person sitting at the reception desk. And to be able to get a reception or a pass, you need to show your passport, for instance. So it could also be interesting for security, compliance, or other concepts. In this case, if you look really well, then you know what to do when you enter the cave later on in the game. Spoiler alert. So this is just a list of all the different items we put in there. For instance, a banana. And then you know how creative you get if you can create a nice description for a banana. It's as straight as an arrow. No, it isn't. So yeah, and then this is the serious part. We call it ZERF. ZERF is basically the 4 dimensions of your personal profile. And it will give you an insight in the consequences of the choices you make. So if you have a lot of socially emotional answers, then obviously that will be a higher percentage of your profile than if you take a lot of rational decisions, and then that will be higher. So in the end, all the coins you collect throughout the game you can use on a marketplace, and the link hasn't been built yet. But in the end, the marketplace offers you suggestions to products that you might need to help you with your personal vitality level, whether it be more in the food area or more in the spiritual area or social-emotionally area or another. So if you go to the marketplace, eventually, for instance, you could start maybe do a one-day course of meditation for free because of the coins you gathered throughout the game. So that's the idea, that's the game. If you would like to play it, go to this link. You can just register for free. It works best on an iPad or on a tablet or on a laptop. You could do it by phone, but it becomes obviously really, really small. But it does work. But then add the link to your home screen, because then you don't have the scrolling problem. Like I said, it's not an app yet, it's not native, it's just HTML. But we think it's a really cool project, and we're sincerely looking for partners that believe in a concept like this and would like to sell it in their country locally. Any questions?
Well, first of all, a round of applause for Bart.
Only if I deserve it.